All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis here for week 4 of college football in this episode. And you know what? I'm your host, Caleb. You can follow me on Twitter right down here in the bottom right-hand corner at CalebVUA. Still not putting a link there because I'm still kind of lazy on that front, but it's in the description as well. You just go ahead, you hit the link, copy paste it into the browser, whatever, and go ahead and hit a follow over there. But yeah, we're back for week 4 of the college football season here. And yeah, just right up top, I'm just gonna say next week gonna be totally normal. I would suppose. Week after that, we're going to have a little bit of a schedule change up here because your boy is going on a work trip and cannot record Monday through Wednesday, pretty much. I'm assuming I'm going to get back at an hour on Wednesday where I won't be able to record. So, with that said, I'll probably be putting out one episode either that Thursday or that Friday. Just want to get way out ahead of this, just to make sure there's no surprises at any juncture of this show going forward. But yeah, I'm still debating on how I want to structure that said episode. But yeah, right now, just want to let you all know the schedule is going to be a little bit different. I'm in for a torrid October. There's a lot going on for your boy. And end of September, early October, there's a lot going on for your boy. And I'll just leave it at that. That being said, housekeeping out of the way, we've got some college football to talk about, folks. It was a week, you know, nothing to write home about, but a couple really solid matchups, as is the usual. So just get straight into this thing, shall we? And usually I go chronologically. This time there are a couple that I should probably hit right up top. So there's two of them really. So I'll start with the biggest one, and then we'll go on from there, and then we'll do it all chronologically because that seems like the best way to do it. Either way. So the biggest game of the weekend, USC traveled over to Michigan. I thought that USC would cover this spread, -5.5 in their favor. I think it might have been down to 4.5 by kickoff time, but I think it stayed mainly around like 5.5 there. Either way, USC road dog in their very first Big Ten game at the Big House. I leaned towards it, didn't end up betting it, and that ended up being a good decision because Michigan won this game 27-24. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't pretty. Wasn't pretty whatsoever, but I mean they got the job done. They ran the hell out of the ball. I'll tell you what, I mean 290 yards, 6.3 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns compared to USC's 96 rushing yards and 0 touchdowns. Tells you everything you need to know about this game. I mean, maybe not everything, but that's where the game was won right there for Michigan. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a few different fumbles where they got incredibly lucky. USC did a couple turnovers here. There was an interception by Miller Moss and a fumble loss by, Miller Moss as well. So they got pretty lucky in some respects, but ultimately, hey, credit where credit is due. Michigan got the win here. They got a gutsy win at that. Got 32 passing yards in this game. Alex Orji threw for 32 yards in this game. Putrid. Didn't turn the ball over, though. That's the main thing. So that's what we're looking at right now, is that they didn't turn the ball over. Or, well, they did. They lost 2 fumbles. But Alex Orji wasn't the one turning the ball over, which, at this point, given what the Wolverines' QB situation is, pretty much all you can ask. I mean, as far as Michigan is concerned, are they a good team? I mean, it depends on your point of view. If you're looking like Mississippi State, I would kill for a team like Michigan's this year. Flaws and all, give them to me. I'll take every single player and just transplant them right down to Mississippi State if you give me the option. Now, if you're talking Michigan standards, if you're talking, based on the national title last year, no, it's not a very good team compared to what their standards are. But they're still a solid enough team to where, are they a playoff team? No. But they're going to give some teams problems. They're going to give the Ohio States, the Penn States of the world some problems, I would say, at least for a portion of those games. And they're going to beat pretty much everyone else on their schedule. So, I mean, 8-4, 9-3. They're going to be on the outside of the playoff picture in all likelihood. But how far out? I don't think they're going to be that far out. As far as down years are concerned, this could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. Now, you do have to get the quarterback situation figured out. I don't know if you go in the transfer portal to do that. Would buck some trends with the Michigan Wolverines here in the past. You can go look those up. Not real friendly to portal QBs here in the recent past. It doesn't seem like the quarterback answer is on the roster, though. So that's the main thing I would be worried about if I was a Michigan fan. What is the future of the quarterback position at Michigan? Because I don't know if... I mean, Davis Warren ain't it. There's a reason he got benched for Alex Orji. Alex Orji just threw for 32 yards against USC in a home game where the situation, I mean, USC's defense is much improved, but the situation is set up for you to succeed, and you go 7 for 12 for 32 yards. Not great. Not great at all. So I don't think Alex Orji's the answer. Maybe he improves throughout the course of the season, but he's worse, much worse as a passer than what Jalen Milroe was whenever he came into that starting job with Alabama. And I feel like they have a fairly similar athletic profile. Maybe Milroe's a little bit better athlete. But, I mean, mainly running quarterbacks. You're hoping that you get a few contributions in the passing game. And obviously, Jalen Milroe's coming along big time in that passing category. You're going to need to see that sort of progression from Alex Orji if you want him to be the answer going forward for the Michigan program. So that's the big worry for me. But otherwise, I mean, they've always been a great development program, right? And yet to be seen, we won't see that bear out until, probably 2-3 years down the line. You'll probably start to see it next season if they're doing a good job of it. But ultimately, you're not going to see the fruits of the development until year 3, probably, in all likelihood. So we don't know how much of a drop-off there was with Jim Harbaugh leaving and taking, the best of the staff with him. But this has always been more of a developmental program than, bring in big-time recruiting classes and, just go off of pure, unadulterated 5-star talent like Ohio State does. This has always been more of a developmental program. So position-wise, I don't have a whole lot of worries about them position-wise. I mean, running back, offensive line, I assume they're going to figure it out. Receiver, always been a hit-and-miss proposition with Michigan, but they're going to get good enough. And then defensively, I have no worries about Michigan defensively going forward. I think they're going to be able to put together a pretty good group over there. So it's just the quarterback, really. For me, it's the quarterback going forward. They're not a good team this year, but if you're a Michigan fan and you hold your team to the standards that you hold them to, this season's not really about this season. It's about seeing where you need to improve next season so you can get back to where you expect to be, which is competing for national titles. That's the main thing, and I think you got some things to work off of here. I think that, like I said, the main thing is what do you do at quarterback, and that's probably the hardest question to answer for any team, but let alone this Michigan team, given the past limitations, especially in the transfer portal at that position. So that'll be a storyline to follow, but otherwise, you still got to feel good if you're a Michigan fan. I mean, this is a gutsy win by Sharon Moore and crew, and I think it's probably the best win as a full-time head coach that he's had so far. So kudos to him. They're not really a playoff team, but I don't think anyone expected them to be coming in. That was rational anyways. USC on the other side, I mean, they're still... It was borne out throughout the course of this game. One, Miller Moss, I mean, hats off to him. He didn't have fantastic numbers, only 5.5 yards per attempt. That's because Wink Martindale was giving him the full Wink Martindale special. I think he had 51 pass attempts. I want to say 24 of those pass attempts were under pressure. So he was under duress the entire day, and he still ended up 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not fantastic numbers overall, but good touchdown to interception ratio. Obviously lost that fumble, but the offensive line was giving him no help. And that's the real problem with USC right now is the lines of scrimmage on both sides still look like they're a year away. They're going in the right direction. Don't get me wrong. I think D'Anton Lynn was a fantastic knock the ball out of the park hire at defensive coordinator. And I think that's going to pay dividends. It's already paying way more dividends than I expected of him in year 1. That's going to continue to pay dividends as we go forward defensively. You just got to shore up that offensive line with Big Ten level talent, and you got to do the same on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're doing a better job defensively right now than they are offensively with those additions. I think that should be the main portal focus this year, which is hard to get offensive linemen in the portal, but recruiting portal going forward, I think needs to be very focused on the lines of scrimmage. If that is, Lincoln Riley really wants to execute the change that he purports to want to execute, which is becoming a greater defense, being a defensive-focused team, and being able to compete in the Big Ten that way, because you kind of have to have that card in your bag. It doesn't have to be your main card, but if need be, you have to be able to pull out a level of physicality on both sides of the ball in the Big Ten. Otherwise, it's going to happen in this game like it happens all the time to teams that aren't physical enough in the line of scrimmage in the Big Ten. You're going to get right down to it, and a play happens here and there, and the more experienced, more physical team wins out. That's exactly what happened in this one, with the fumbles going on, the crazy plays all throughout from the Michigan defense. Ultimately, that was the difference for them, and this was the best game of the day for sure. 27-24, Michigan gets the win. Big win to assure Michigan fans. USC, don't burn the bridges just yet. I think you're still a really solid team, just not quite at that upper echelon Big Ten level yet on the lines of scrimmage. Keep going in this direction that you're going, though. You're going to get there at some point. It's about keeping the faith, and I think they will. It's just a matter of what is USC's record this year, and will that be good enough to keep Lincoln Riley off the hot seat for another season? Because he's going to need a little bit of time to bring this thing to fruition. We'll see if USC gives it to him. They haven't been exactly a competent athletic administration over there at USC, and at least in my lifetime, really since, Pete Carroll was there. So we move on. Tennessee goes on the road to Oklahoma. Josh Heupel returning to Oklahoma for the first time since he was run out of town as the offensive coordinator. They hated him whenever he left. It was not a harmonious departure from Oklahoma. It was actually very acrimonious. That was the best way to describe it. And so a lot of emotion coming back. You saw it all etched all over Josh Heupel in the post game whenever he addressed his team. But he comes in. Not a flashy, awesome offensive day. You had one long play to Dante Thornton, goes for 66 yards and a touchdown, but otherwise, not a huge day through the air, not a huge day offensively, but they get the win. They get the win in convincing fashion, 25-15. Not an offensive explosion, but still looked just as dominant in a hostile road environment. Nico Iamaleava, that was his first real taste of the road, and going to be pretty analogous to the rest of easy for me to say. It's going to be pretty analogous to what he's going to face throughout the rest of the SEC. So this was good experience for him. Good wetting the whistle, if you will. And offensively, they just got the job done. it wasn't pretty. Obviously, Nico had really solid numbers overall. 13 of 21, 194, 9.2 yards per attempt, one touchdown. No interceptions, no turnovers. Actually, no, he lost 2 fumbles. That's the main thing. You got to clean up there. True freshman road environment, these things happen. But the defense, that's what you have to really be excited about if you're Tennessee, because the defense is the best that Josh Heupel has had. And I think the offense is back to performing at an elite level. But it's hard to understate the value of having a defense like Tennessee's does in its back pocket when, okay, let's say the main card that they play out there, high-flying offense, we're going to score 45 on you, and then we're going to ask you to outscore us. If that doesn't work, if the offense is not moving, you got to have a defense on the other side that can hold up their end of the bargain. And in past years, Tennessee has not had that. I think even in the year where Tennessee was, they had Hendon Hooker, they were the number 1 team in the nation before he tears his ACL. Who's to say what happens if he doesn't tear his ACL against South Carolina a couple years back? I think even in that season, I don't think Tennessee had a defense that could hold up their end of the bargain like Tennessee has this year. Now, if Nico Iamaleava really just comes into his own as this season goes along, continues the trajectory that he has had throughout the early course of this season, Tennessee has a better team this year than they had in that 2022 year, I believe it was. Mark my words on that. This Tennessee team, they are ready for a title run, and they've proved it even more in this one. Going into a hostile road environment, playing against a really solid Oklahoma Sooner defense. That offense is a disaster right now. We'll get to them in just a second, but that defense is They're really, really good. They're up to Brent Venables' standards right now. I like what they're putting out there. Still working up to it. I mean, you could make an argument that maybe they should be a finished product by this point. Hey, they're much better than when Brent Venables got there, and they have some young contributors. So we'll see how it goes going along. Going up against that defense, putting up 25 points. Not a flashy day on the ground, but ultimately being able to get the job done. I mean, having a weapon like Dante Thornton, it's hard to understate just how good he is in the passing game. Big flashy type of guy that had that 66-yard reception in this one for a touchdown. But I mean, looking at the running game, I mean, Dylan Sampson, not the craziest day in the world, only 3.8 yards per carry, but they were. Look, Oklahoma's loading the box against him in the second half because Tennessee is dominating so much. I mean, the play split between run and pass for the Volunteers was 21 passing plays or 21 passes, 52 runs. Like this was one of those games where by the second half there was a clear emphasis on stopping the run for Oklahoma, and that ultimately was the reason why Tennessee only scored 25 points, because by the second half, I mean, it was 19-3 at halftime. This was not a competitive game, and I think Tennessee had full confidence in their defense, and they were just killing clock, and that's all they did in the second half. That's all they needed to do in the second half. I cannot overstate just how impressed I am with Tennessee so far. They're a real title contender, and we're going to see what they're made of. I think they're definitely playing Alabama. I think they play Georgia at some point as well. Maybe they play them in the SEC championship game if they get there. They definitely play Alabama, though, here in a couple weeks. That's going to be the real litmus test for how for real is this team. I think they passed another test this past week, but more tests are to come. They are really, really good. I think they are every bit as talented as the best teams in this country. I mean, right up there with Georgia, Texas, Ohio State. They're right up there with them. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in SEC play, just not in a couple weeks whenever they face my Bulldogs. That's going to hurt a lot. That's going to hurt a whole lot, but we'll keep it moving. We'll talk about Mississippi State here in a bit. Oklahoma, though, boy, are they in quite a predicament because, well, let's start with the positives. Like I said there initially with Tennessee, the defense looks good. They look good. They look like they're SEC ready right now. I mean, holding Tennessee to 25 points, that's good. You got to pat yourself on the back for that. Never mind, they scored 19 in the first half and then put on the cruise control in the second half. Hey, these things happen. These things happen from time to time. However, on the offensive side of the ball, vibes are bad. Situation is about as dire gets. I mean, let's obviously start with the elephant in the room. You whiffed on Jackson Arnold. It's pretty clear at this point. He is not very good. He went 7 of 16 in this game and got benched for the fourth quarter. So he has been really bad, and his backup, Michael Hawkins Jr., looked like at least a competent quarterback. 132 yards, 7.3 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown. Facing a lot of prevent defense, I would imagine, a lot of shell coverage, but much better than Jackson Arnold. That's for damn sure. Jackson Arnold was awful in this game. I don't know if he sees the field again at Oklahoma, quite frankly. I think he is headed for the transfer portal no matter what. And I think we may have seen the last of him in an Oklahoma uniform. I feel like Michael Hawkins Jr. Might be the play for Brent Venables and co. going forward. So that's one thing. You whiffed on your 5-star guy that you were expecting to be the heir apparent to Dylan Gabriel, pick up right where he left off. Also, another thing about the offense, looks like you might have whiffed on the offensive coordinator hire too, because the offense is atrocious. I mean, 108th, I believe, in the nation after this weekend. They are so stinky god awful, and I don't know where you go from here, because it's not like you can move on from the offensive coordinator right now. You have to kind of keep him throughout the course of the season, don't you? And then from there, where do you go next? And quarterback-wise, where do you go next from there? Do you go back to the transfer portal, try and pick up someone on the wire there, so to speak? Do they just, roll with Michael Hawkins Jr. going forward? I don't know. It kind of depends on how he plays throughout the course of this season. But offensively, Shit is dire right now for Oklahoma, man. It is not good over there, and I don't see it getting better this season. Oklahoma's 3-1 right now. Let's take a look at their schedule going forward. I got Auburn up next. They're on the road at Auburn. That's a real suckfest right there. They have a real chance of losing that one. Then they play Texas. That's a loss. South Carolina. I think that's a loss. Ole Miss. That's a loss. So what? We're counting 3 right now. If you generously give them the Auburn win there, that would be 1-3 over that stretch. Play Maine. That's a win. Give them that. At Missouri, they're going to lose that for sure. So that's 4 losses in this stretch. That would put them at 4-5. Alabama, that's a loss. That's 4-6. And then they're at LSU, so 4-7. I messed up the math somewhere along the way. Okay, sorry. So that would be 5-7. I'm looking at 5-7 right now for them, and that's generously giving them a win at Auburn, which I don't think either of those teams are very good. I think there's a real chance that Auburn pulls that off just because Oklahoma's not that great. And hey, maybe they get the new QB bump and they blow Auburn out of the water. I'm more than willing to eat my words. I think this Oklahoma team is in for a rude awakening here in the SEC. Texas, not so much. They're fantastic. But Oklahoma might be on the shit end of the stick for right now. I don't know what you do at quarterback going forward. I don't know what you do offensively to improve this thing. Maybe Michael Hawkins is just the juice that they need. And you know what? Optimistically for them, I hope that's the case. I sincerely hope that is the case. I just don't believe it is. And if it's not, boy, you are in a no man's land that I do not envy with that whole quarterback situation. So one to monitor. Get ready for SEC play, Oklahoma. You ain't in the Big 12 anymore. I'll tell you that right now. All right, so from there, we'll just go chronologically because we had some good games, but those were the 2 most important that I had to hit up top. So starting chronologically here on Friday, and we're going with the top 25 first because, you know, most important to least important. You understand how it is. Illinois went on the road to Nebraska, got us a win on the official bets. 3-3 last week. Not awesome, but your boy is thriving on the offline picks right now. We're still winning on the season on the official picks, and you know what? I think we're in the green overall. So we're doing good. We're treading water about through that first month of the season. Now we're about to see what these teams are really made of right now. We are about to start making some money. I'm manifesting it going forward. Last talk about betting today. So sorry about that. We'll keep it moving forward. I have no picks too, by the way. Sorry about that. A lot of stuff going on in my life. A lot of stuff. But number 24, Illinois, goes on the road to Nebraska. They win in overtime, 31-24. We saw a 3rd and 42, I believe, in overtime, not in regulation, in overtime. Just so many mistakes in overtime, and then ultimately the protection is just non-existent on the last play, and then it's, 4th and 30 something, 4th and 20 something. Dylan Raiola gets sacked. It's all over from there. I don't want to take away from Dylan Raiola in this game. I want to give the kid his flowers because he was really, really solid all throughout this game. Had some tough times at the end. Ultimately took a bunch of sacks that kind of cost Nebraska this game. But first true test in the Big Ten with a ranked Illinois team. Yes, it's at home. But I got to give credit where it's due. This is solid Illinois defense. And Raiola went 297, 8.5 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was really good all throughout this game. Isaiah Nair looks really good in this offense. Jamal Banks also looks really good. It looks like Nebraska hit on a lot of their portal additions, and I think they're going to be a real player in this Big Ten, maybe kind of a dark horse playoff discussion. That might be their only loss before they head to Ohio State here later in the year. So, hey, no disrespect to Nebraska here, but I got to give Illinois their flowers in this one. You go on the road, and you go into an environment that is hostile, however many straight sellouts they have, like 400 straight sellouts or something crazy like that. Some juice numbers, some may say, but you know what? I'm not sitting here casting aspersions, all right? I'm just here stating the facts. That's a hostile road environment you're going to in a big ranked matchup. Luke Altmaier looked the part in this one, man. Only 215 passing yards, but 21 of 27, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. only lost one fumble. That was his only turnover of the game, though. I mean, outside of that, gave him enough running the ball to kind of, keep him afloat. Otherwise, just kind of kept the ship moving and didn't shoot him in the foot the entire game, and that's all they needed him to do in order to win this game. Bielema ball is in full force, man. I mean, they ran the ball 39 times for 166 yards, 4.3 yards per carry. No touchdowns. That's because Luke Altmaier was playing so well. You don't need touchdowns from the running backs if, your quarterback is getting the job done. I think that's the ideal situation, actually, if your quarterback is getting the job done. Bielema ball is in full effect, man. They went up against a really solid young quarterback, but a really, really solid young quarterback, a guy that's going to end up being probably the number 1 overall pick in 2 years when he's eligible. There's still 2 more full seasons that he's eligible to play in college football, folks. We're going to have Dylan Raiola around for quite some time. I hope he's with Nebraska all that time. I don't want to see him enter in the transfer portal. That would really break my heart. So I hope he stays at Nebraska, brings Nebraska back. But that's very exciting for Nebraska. It's got to be even more exciting for the Illinois faithful to see your team go on the road, hold that Nebraska team to 24 points, 1.5 yards per carry. Obviously, that is inflated by all the sack numbers from Dylan Raiola. But you even take Dylan Raiola outside of popping a big one for Jalen or Isaiah Nair. He had 1 carry for 13 yards. I mean, their bell cow running back, Dante Dowdell, only had 72 yards rushing on 20 carries, under 4 yards per carry in this game. So really stout running defense the entire game from Illinois. And we are back to classic Bielema ball, man. Run the ball, play really good defense, have efficient quarterback play. You don't ask the quarterback to do a whole lot, but you ask him to be highly efficient in what he does. And it is just all coming up roses for Bielema right now. This is exactly the type of team that he wants. You're going into Big Ten play. I'm sure they got some big opponents. Let's take a look at the schedule here. You got Penn State next week on the road. That's a huge opportunity for them. It's a huge road spot. I'll have to take a look at that line here whenever we preview next week. But that's one to keep an eye on right there, man. Could be a possible upset spot for Penn State. Could be a coronation game for Illinois if they get through that one. They still got Michigan on the schedule. They still got Oregon. Minnesota's never a hard out. Said the same thing twice. Never an easy out. Easy for me to say. But look on the bright side, man. They don't face Ohio State, so you don't face the best team in the conference. You face all the other best teams in the conference, but you don't face Ohio State. Watch out for that Rutgers game in the second to last week of the season, by the way. That's not one you should take lightly if you are Illinois. That's another really solid, underrated team that we're going to talk about here briefly as we go along. But, hey, man, this is a schedule that it is tough. Make no mistake about it. They have still got, as of right now, 3 ranked teams, all of them in the top 15 that they're playing going forward. 2 of them being in the top 10 in Penn State and Oregon, 2 legitimate playoff caliber teams. If they win, if they go 2-1 in those games, and they're pretty much going to have to go 2-1 if they want to have a legitimate stake and a legitimate claim at a playoff spot here. That's what their goal is. If they go 2-1 in that stretch of Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, and they win out the rest of the schedule, that's obviously a prerequisite here. They're gonna have a resume that is playoff worthy. That's going to be 10-2. That is going to be really in the second best conference in the nation. Obviously, the SEC is going to have no shortage of claimants there for those back end spots. Those final 7 spots in the order there are up for grabs, and there's so many SEC teams. Some of them are going to get left out. Illinois is going to have a resume if they go 2-1 in that stretch. If they're 10-2 on the season, then, I mean, man, the ceiling is the roof, in the words of Michael Jordan. They would actually be 11-1 if they won out outside of that. I mean, math is hard for me today. I do apologize. But if they were 11-1, Big Ten probably going into the Big Ten title game at that point, if they do end up with that resume. I mean, hey, they'd be hard-pressed to be left out. So, I mean, there's a real opportunity for Illinois down the stretch to put together a playoff resume, and I'm sure that's exactly what Brett Bielema is preaching to his team right now. They're a team to watch going forward, man. I mean, I can't say enough about Brett Bielema and the job that he has done there with Illinois. Brett Bielema's all the way back. I thought he was done with Arkansas, and then he just gained a little bit of gravitas, so to speak, and then just parlayed that into even better coaching job here with Illinois. I'm highly impressed with what he's done there with the Illini. He belongs in the Big Ten, man. He is a Big Ten guy through and through, and I'm glad to see him back there. Okay, we'll just kind of breeze through a couple here. Texas, Arch Manning had, up and down game, but ultimately gets a bunch of touchdowns. Texas wins 51-3 over UL Monroe. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. They're still the number one team in the nation in the AP poll, and pretty much every poll that matters. That Texas is playing the best right now. So that's why they're number one, and they've done nothing to dissuade that notion. Why does my nose itch? Why does this always happen? I mean, hopefully that does the trick right there. Ohio State gets the win over Marshall, 49-14. Another slow start in this one. I think Marshall took out a 7-0 lead. They're going to have to figure out these slow starts because it's going to come back to bite them when they face big-time competition, but they're still a playoff team, front runner for the Big Ten, national title contender. We don't need to talk about them anymore. Ole Miss beat Georgia Southern by a lot, 52-13. Ole Miss doesn't play anybody this year. We're not going to talk about them hardly at all, but they are a really good team, and they look like they are ready to make another title run for themselves. And if ever there was a year for an expanded playoff, it's this one because there's a lot of really good teams. Ole Miss is one of them. Missouri is escaped an upset. I mean, snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in the most literal sense possible, really, in this game against Vanderbilt. They went 30-27 in double overtime. Did not score in the fourth quarter. Ultimately, it was tied the entire fourth quarter, and then they got into overtime. And me being first here to say that's barely English what I just said, but I'd like to be the first one to say that I was rooting for Vanderbilt in this game. I think we learned that Missouri is not a great football team. They're good enough to win games. They have a good culture, but they're not the team that they were last year. Luther Burden is an insane player. I got to give credit where credit is due there. I mean, Luther Burden is out of his mind good. Should be the first receiver taken off the board. I think it's right now him and Tet McMillan going, toe-to-toe for that number one receiver spot in this upcoming draft. He's a stud, absolute stud. But outside of him, there's not really a great deal of studs on this roster. I mean, Nate Noel, credit where credit is due, the running back from Missouri, did go 199 yards in this game. No touchdowns, but 199 yards. That has got to count for something. It does in my book for sure. Outside of that, though, I just don't think Brady Cook is all that good. I think he doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, but he's not an NFL guy, at least not in my mind. So there's that. I don't really see a whole lot of upside there at your quarterback. Outside of Luther Burden, where are you getting the contributions from? That's a real question that needs to be answered. Obviously, Nate Noel, solid enough running back, did a great job in this game. Defense is not as good as it has been in recent years, and I think that's really where this team kind of falls short, especially in a really loaded SEC. They're undefeated right now. They're a top 10 team, and based on resume, I understand why the AP puts them there, but I think they're gonna want to be one of those teams that falls by the wayside as we get into SEC play. It's just too crowded at the top, and someone's gonna fall off. I have a feeling that Missouri's gonna be that team. Miami continues their cupcake row here with South Florida. They win 50-15. Hey, but let's give South Florida its flowers, though. I mean, or really Miami its flowers. South Florida, it was a sneaky team. They have a really good coaching staff, and they're putting together a solid program over there. This could have been a really sneaky spot for Miami, and Cam Ward didn't let it happen. He's my Heisman frontrunner for sure right now. I mean, 24-34, 404 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. I mean, over 10 yards an attempt on the clip there. Probably like 11. I mean, we can check the exact stats here. We're on the website. 11.9, just short of 12 yards per attempt in this game. Only 1 turnover in this entire game, and they really, did a great job. Did a great job in this game. I think offensively, they're kind of trying to find themselves in the running game, but getting good contributions. Damian Martinez still trying to find his stride, but played a great role for them in short yardage in this game. Got 3 touchdowns. Not a whole lot of yardage, but 3 touchdowns in this game. They have great receivers, a great quarterback, a defense that really plays well. Miami, bona fide national title contender. No question in my mind. And this is a year where Miami has to strike while the iron is hot. They're putting together a great football team going forward, but there's no guarantee you're going to have a quarterback as good as Cam Ward. You have to capitalize on it this year, and I think Miami is obviously the cream of the crop in the ACC, but a real title contender right now. I don't know if they necessarily have the type of team that a Tennessee has, or an Ohio State has, or a Georgia for that matter, but they're just a shade below that. They're a really good football team, and when you have a quarterback like Cam Ward, you have a puncher's chance no matter what, I would say. Just look at what Michael Penix did last year with Washington. They're loaded with pro talent, but they were not the team that Michigan was. They were, not as good of a roster as Texas was. They just had a better quarterback out there. So take that as a lesson. Miami's sneaky. They're sneaky. They're not really sneaking up on anyone, but in the national title conversation, they're sneaky right now. They're real sneaky. Penn State blew the doors off of Kent State. The only notable thing in this game is that Penn State put up 718 yards of offense. That's a school record, and they held Kent State to under 100. That's just a bullying, just a beatdown of a lifetime there. I don't know what Kent State is doing. They've just faced nothing but Power 5 opponents, and they've gotten smoked each time. Pray for Kent State, man. Just pray for Kent State. That's all I have to say about that. Utah got a gutsy win over Oklahoma State. Cam Rising was not in this game, and I need to see this kid's name. Isaac Wilson, the brother of Zach Wilson, didn't play well, but did just enough to put him over the top there and win the game. The real winner of this game was the Utah running game. A lot of game that I just said there in that sentence. I apologize for that. 52 rushing attempts, 249 yards, 1 touchdown on the game. Only needed that 1 touchdown, though, because the Utah defense dominated. Oklahoma State is so bad. They are such a bad football team. Alan Bowman, just update the LinkedIn. Start filling out job applications, man. Get a consulting gig, man. It's over in college football. You need to enter the workforce, son. You need to start supporting the economy and start building the life, because football ain't it for you, man. Unfortunately, it's just not in the cards for you, bud. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 6.2 yards per attempt. He was not good in this game. Ollie Gordon, what the hell happened to Ollie Gordon that we knew and loved from the past season, really? From what happened to the Doak Walker Award winner? What happened to this most experienced offensive line in college football that they were returning? Oklahoma State looks bad, just bad. I don't think they're real Big 12 contenders, but I don't think anyone's really that good in the Big 12. I guess Utah is obviously the cream of the crop if they do have Cam Rising in there, but Cam Rising's health has been a constant and lingering question throughout the entirety of his time in college, and it's been a lingering question this year. And it's probably going to be a lingering question throughout the rest of the season. Do we really trust him to stay healthy throughout a title run here in the Big 12? I don't think I do. So there is that uncertainty there. The Big 12 is just a bunch of okay teams that aren't really that good, but they're all around the same level. There's legitimately like 10 teams that could win the Big 12 title this year, and that might be a slight exaggeration, but let's just go down the Big 12 standings right now. BYU, they beat the hell out of K-State. We'll talk about them in just a minute and the unfortunate ramifications of that BYU for one unlucky and unwise K-State fan. They're 4-0 in conference. They're a legit title contender. Utah, obviously title contender. UCF, sneaky. We'll talk about them in a bit. They're a title contender. Cincinnati, get out of here. They're not that good. They're 3-1, but they're not that good. Colorado, they're feisty enough. They're probably better than they were last year. Not that that's going to get them a whole lot more than 5 wins, but they're better than they were last year. Texas Tech, they're solid enough in this whole thing. They're good enough in this. And Texas Tech sneaky 3-1. Didn't know that they were 3-1 this season, but they're good enough, especially with Taj Boyd coming back. They're going to get some wins they're not expected to get this year. West Virginia, not that good. We'll skip past them, but Iowa State, solid enough to win this conference. Arizona, probably not good enough, but they're right around the level of everyone else. K-State, I don't think they're all that good, but they're right about the level of everyone else. Arizona State, Paper Tiger, their best win is against Mississippi State, so we'll leave them to the side. Oklahoma State, certainly good enough to win it. I don't think they're all that good, but they're certainly good enough to win it, and then we don't have to worry about the bottom half of the standings there. But I think I probably named like 6 to 8 teams that I could legitimately think might win the Big 12 title. I mean, let me just count them up right now. I mean, I'm looking at Oklahoma State, Arizona State. No. Arizona, Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech. We'll put them in there just because they had a good start to the season. UCF, Utah, BYU. That's 8 right there. I mean, that's about as even of a conference race as there is in this entire country. I maintain, as I thought in the preseason, that the Big 12 is going to be the most fun league in the conference or league in the nation to watch, and I stand by that prediction. I think it's shaping out pretty good right now. I think it's going to be a crazy, crazy Big 12 play going forward. I think there's going to be a lot of interest, a lot of intrigue, a lot of shockers. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a really fun conference to watch this year, and I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. Kansas State. They go on the road to BYU, and they get smoked, just beaten to the ground by the Stormin' Mormons over there in Provo, Utah. 38-9, BYU gets the win. They are 4-0. They are legit, and I think they are a legitimate Big 12 contender. Much better than maybe I thought they would be coming in. Hey, the Stormin' Mormons got a squad this year, man. The Cougs got a squad, and they're 4-0, and they're in a relatively weak conference. They got a puncher's chance just like everybody else. Hell, they might have a better than a puncher's chance. They are a solid team this year. Kansas State, with Avery Johnson as your quarterback, I don't really take you seriously as a legitimate, bona fide front runner in the Big 12. Think you can definitely put yourself in the mix because Avery Johnson is a really capable runner. I think he's a really fast quarterback. He can get you a lot in the ground game, and with DJ Giddens as your running back, you're cooking with gas in that category. When you ask him to throw the ball, though, not good, not fantastic. You were basically hoping that you play with a lead if Avery Johnson is your quarterback. That's the main thing. If he can lean on that running game, boy, is it going to be magical. But if you're behind, and they got behind early in this one, I mean, 17-6 at halftime, BYU was up in this game. If you're playing from behind, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Avery Johnson to throw you back into games, and I believe quite the contrary. I think more times than not, he's going to throw you out of games. I'm thinking that they're wishing that they had Will Howard back and didn't force him out of town. It's not like you can trade players like you can in the NFL. This would be a situation where you trade the backup and keep the starter if you're in the NFL, though. If that's the QB controversy. Obviously, you can't keep both of them. I think they backed the wrong horse, though, in going with Avery Johnson going forward. Kansas State's going to be feisty, though. They have a solid enough defense. Obviously didn't show in this one, but a solid enough defense, solid offense. Solid running offense. So they'll be feisty. They'll be right there at the level of most solid teams in the Big 12, where they're going to get some wins that you don't expect them to. They're going to drop some games that you expect them to win. That's just going to be the story of the Big 12 this year, and that's why it's going to be so fun. LSU took them until halftime to figure out that they were playing UCLA, apparently. Garrett Nussmeier put up big numbers, 352, 3 touchdowns, yada, yada, yada. It was 17-17 at halftime before they ultimately outscored UCLA 34-0, or 17-0 in the second half, get a 34-17 win over UCLA. LSU's another team, man. That middle of the pack in the SEC that, maybe you thought you're right on the cusp of having a title hope coming into this year. LSU's not good enough, man. I think they're 8-4, 9-3 at the very, very best. They're not going to be in the playoff discussion when it's all said and done unless a lot of those teams at the top kind of cannibalize each other and 9-3 teams start being considered for that playoff spot. I think 10-2 is going to have to be the baseline to get you in the playoffs this year, and I just don't see LSU getting there. I think that SEC schedule is going to catch up and bite them. I think they're going to get beat by Ole Miss. Let's not speculate here. Let's just go through the schedule. I think you hope they beat South Alabama. South Alabama's solid enough squad, though. Sneaky game there. At home, but sneaky game there with the team that's been inconsistent in games that they're supposed to win. Ole Miss, I think that's a loss, even though it is at home. At Arkansas, that's a sneaky one that might be a loss. I think, honestly, I think they do lose that game. I think they lose against Arkansas. I think that's actually no. I don't want to outright say that. So they have a stretch on the road at Arkansas, on the road at Texas A&M, and then hosting Alabama. I think they're going to lose to Alabama, and I think they're going to lose one of two of the Arkansas and the A&M games on the road. I think they beat Florida at Florida. I don't think they're that bad. I think that Vanderbilt game is sneaky. And I think that Oklahoma game might be sneaky in its own right. So I'll put it this way. I think they lose one of the Vanderbilt or the Oklahoma games. Take your pick there, and I think that gets them to 9-3 at that point. The moral of the story is I don't see where the losses happen on the schedule outside of Alabama. But I see them losing those games. I see them losing some games in there to get to a sum total of 9-3. Math has not been my strong suit today, so don't take what I'm saying for granted. Maybe I put them at 8-4. Maybe 8-4 is a little bit low. I just feel like this team's not good enough, man. The defense has not improved nearly as much as you would hope for. I'm so far a little bit disappointed by the hire of Blake Baker. We'll see how it develops throughout the course of the year, but I'm a little bit disappointed by the early returns on that investment. In this LSU offense, they don't have Jaden Daniels there anymore, man. Garrett Nussmeier is a fine passer. He just doesn't have the mobile attributes, and the running game is not good enough on offense. I just feel like LSU is going to fall by the wayside at some point. I have a fine enough season, but not up to the standards that they were hoping for coming into the year. My goodness, I wish this nose would stop itching, and that would make me a lot happier, but it's just not that way. Notre Dame beat Miami of Ohio to improve to 3-1, 28-3 the win. Didn't learn much there. Riley Leonard, solid game though. Almost 300 total yards, 143 on the ground, 3 total touchdowns with 2 coming on the ground. Hey, that's going to have to be the way you butter your bread this year, man. I know Mike Denbrock is coming over from a year with Jaden Daniels where you toss the ball down the field. That is not the personnel that you have here at Notre Dame. And I think this is going to be what it looks like going forward for Notre Dame. Just a lot of running game and ask the quarterback to do as little as possible because Riley Leonard ain't it as passer. Louisville hosts a tough Georgia Tech team. They get the win 31-19. Haynes King threw for 312, but credit to Louisville's defense, did not give up a touchdown through the air, and you did just enough passing the ball to get the win here. Louisville, sneaky ACC contender, man. No one's talking about Jeff Brom and the Cardinals over there at Louisville, and they're just chugging along, 3-0, returning much of the core that they had last year with the outside of Isaac Guerendo. Tyler Shucks playing good over there at quarterback. Hey, Louisville, they're sneaky. I think they're right there nestled at number 3, right behind, not Syracuse. Who am I thinking of? Clemson in that ACC. Oh, you want to talk about a team that's resurging. Boy, I'm going to have to eat some crow here in a second with Clemson. Not too much of it, though, because my point still stands, but we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Iowa State beat the hell out of Arkansas State, 52-7. Thank you for making me some money. That was one of my unpublicized picks. Not on the card, so to speak. Clemson gets the win over NC State 59-35, and I guess you got to worry about the 35, but it all came in garbage time. They only gave up 14 real points in this game. Basically, it was 59-7 going into the fourth quarter, and they just pulled everybody. I mean, Cade Klubnik started this game with a 55-yard touchdown run, and by the way, I need to address this. If you didn't know Cade Klubnik had a 55-yard touchdown run in the bag, I don't think you really knew Cade Klubnik. He was the number 1 dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. Not pocket passer, dual threat. Let's not get distracted by the skin color here, man. He was a really, really good runner coming out, and that was his greatest attribute, really, up until this point. And he seems to be getting better as a passer, so give credit where credit is due, but he's always been much more of a runner than a passer. Let's not get this twisted. He's really fast. He's a really good athlete. So that 55-yard touchdown scamper to start the game does not surprise me in the least bit. But that set the tone for Clemson, and Clemson has just been taking teams to the woodshed throughout the course of this season after getting beat by Georgia. They had 2 games back-to-back against App State where they just put them into a buzzsaw, and against NC State where they put them through a meat grinder. 2 back-to-back games where they have just annihilated their competition, and they are looking exactly like the team that we thought they would be coming into the season right now, right? Right up there, possible playoff contender. And now I do maintain you're going to have to, at some point, dip into the portal if you really want to be a national title contender. They're good enough to be a playoff contender. And I'm telling you, they're right at their peak right now under this current iteration of Dabo Swinney in the current modern era. They're right at their peak right now where they're firing on all cylinders. They're looking like a playoff team. We'll see if they get there. I mean, we'll see if they get there. When they do get there, I don't have a whole lot of faith in them to go toe-to-toe with the big boys, we'll just say. But, hey, credit to them right now. They're much better. They have improved a whole lot since that week 1 debacle against Georgia. Georgia's been putting a lot of teams in a blender with the exception of Kentucky. So, hey, credit where credit is due. Clemson is playing a lot better, and maybe they just went up against one of the best, if not the best team in the nation in week 1. Give them their leeway. They're looking like a playoff team right now, and they are right up there with Miami as a contender. I think they're right behind them because I think Miami is an actual national title contender, and I don't think Clemson is. But they are right there for the ACC title, and they should be right there for a playoff spot. So, hey, that's something to look forward to if you're a Clemson fan. We're getting right down to the end of the ranked matchups here. Buffalo beat Northern Illinois. That seems to be the most likely outcome. You beat Notre Dame, you go into a bye week, you're drinking your own Kool-Aid for 2 straight weeks. This feels like it was an inevitability. Tough time for a bye after that win against Notre Dame, but Northern Illinois falls to Buffalo in overtime, 23-20, and that pretty much ends their playoff hopes. I don't think they're going to be the MAC representative when this whole thing shakes out. Texas A&M struggled with Bowling Green, but ultimately beat them 26-20. I don't think you're going to be seeing any more Connor Wegman going forward. I'll just say that. Marcel Reese was not the flashiest player, or Marcel Reed rather, not the flashiest player passing the ball, but did not turn the ball over in this game and got you 2 touchdowns through the air to go with 91 yards on the ground. The offense looks way better with Marcel Reed at quarterback than it did with Connor Wegman. Connor Wegman, another guy, I think we've seen the last of him in a Texas A&M uniform. I think he's hitting the portal after this year, and I think Marcel Reed should have a stranglehold of this starting job going forward. I just think he's the better quarterback. He's the better option for him going forward. Okay, so that will do it for the top 25 matchups. How are we doing on time? 51 minutes? Yeah, we'll try to breeze through the remaining big time matchups here in the Power 4. So, conference game starting in the ACC, Stanford at Syracuse. Curdles my blood just to think such things. But Syracuse gets a tough loss at home. Stanford goes in there, gets the win 26-24 to get their first win in ACC play as an ACC school, and it still feels weird to say. Syracuse, man, tough loss for him. Tough loss. Fran Brown, though, doing a solid job in year 1. Good pickup with Kyle McCord. Didn't have terrible numbers in this one, but ultimately didn't make the plays when it counted. And that's how you get that result right there. 26-24, Stanford gets the win. What games haven't we hit? Oh, yes, the most hilarious one of the weekend. James Madison goes on the road to North Carolina and just plays the wackiest game of the weekend. I mean, no 2 ways about it. James Madison got the win in this one, 70-50. 70-50. Like, there's so many facets to this score. I mean, I've just got to unpack it layer by layer here. Obviously, you give up 70 points to a group of 5 opponent. Not great for North Carolina. You scored 50, so that's a positive, I suppose. I mean, you lit it up in the second half, 39 points in the second half to take this thing to 50 points. You had 21 in the first. That's just math right there. That's simply math to make it up. I guess it was 29 points in the second half, not 39. I apologize. You scored 50 points. That's a positive, but you gave up 70. You gave up 53 points in one half to James Madison. Vibes are bad right now for North Carolina. Vibes might be worse for a 3-1 team in North Carolina than any other 3-1 team in the nation right now. They are just simply not that good. Cincinnati's right there with them. I don't know what you do. Jacoby Criswell Jacoby Criswell, I believe is the way you say his name, had 475 in this game. I don't know. They're just not a very good team. James Madison, hey, maybe the start of the highlight tape to be the group of 5 representative in the 12-team playoff. You'd love to see it. You'd love to see it. You hope that James Madison gets the due that they deserve, especially after losing Kurt Signetti and then still beating another Power 5 team in the third week of the year. Just magic all around right now. And it gives you goosebumps. Gives you some real goosebumps here. We're well into college football. Vibes are bad from North Carolina though. Who's the James Madison quarterback? I need to say his name because he put up a crazy performance. Alonzo Barnett III had 5 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground, accounted for 477 total yards of offense. 487 total yards of offense and 7 touchdowns. That's a school record. 7 touchdowns at the very least are a school record at James Madison. So shout out to the Dukes, man. Shout out to the Dukes. You look like you are in for a run. You're in for a run, baby. Okay, so outside of that, Rutgers beat Virginia Tech. Did exactly what I thought they would do. Thank you, Rutgers. Virginia beat Coastal Carolina 43-24. That was a result. Duke Middle Tennessee in one of the longest games ever played, I would assume, 45-17. Maybe it's a different one I'm thinking of. I think it might be that Pittsburgh Youngstown State game. Maybe it's the West Virginia game. I don't know. One game was delayed for about a million years, it felt like. Pittsburgh beat Youngstown State 73-17. Hilarious. Might be a dark horse in the ACC. Hey, Pat Narduzzi's got the boys playing, and they got themselves a quarterback there in Holstein, man. Another solid performance, 10 yards per attempt. Yes, it's against Youngstown State. But hey, 4-0, Pittsburgh. More wins than they had all of last season right now. Who would have thought it all the way before the beginning of the season? TCU is an embarrassment right now. They lose to SMU 66-42. Florida State, hey, clap it up. That guy didn't have to eat dog shit for you to win a game. Now, it was disgusting the way you won it, but 14-9 over Cal, hey, a win is a win. They count that the same in the win column as they do every other win in the win column. So 1-3, hey, it's a start. It's a start, man. You can parlay this into, hey, who's to say you might get 4 wins this year? Hey, we're excited to find out. We're excited to find out right now. Boston College did get the win. They did not cover for us, though. Michigan State gets the cover, but Boston College gets the win 23-19. Aiden Childs, is he the guy? I know Jonathan Smith brought him over from Oregon State with him, but has not been good so far this year. That's going to be a situation to monitor going forward. I would assume that Jonathan Smith is going to commit to him and commit to his development going forward, but that's got to be worrying. 3 interceptions in a game that was very winnable for you. If you just take away one of those interceptions, maybe this game turns out differently for Michigan State. That's something you got to be worried about, but that'll do it for the ACC. Let's keep it moving. Big 12, what do we got going on in the Big 12? A lot of ranked matchups in the Big 12, but Houston's terrible. Cincinnati beat them 34-0, and Cincinnati's not all that good, even though they're 3-1. I have faith in Willie Fritz to get that ship righted. Hey, I'd just like to point out Kevin Barbay is your offensive coordinator, and that's the guy that Willie Fritz brought with you. So, good luck. That's all I got to say. Good luck. West Virginia, this was the game that lasted forever. Had a big-time rain delay in the middle of this one. Ultimately took a million hours, but West Virginia snatches victory from the jaws of defeat. They win against Kansas, who is not really good this year, 32-28. Just not even sure what to say about this game. I think this is 2 teams that are not good enough to win the Big 12. That is a very gettable Big 12, which is to say something about both of these teams. Taj Brooks, another big game for Texas Tech against Arizona State. Texas Tech gets the win 30-22. Taj Brooks, 27 carries, 117 yards. He is looking like a stud back there for him. Cam Scadabo, hey, 117 yards through the air in this game. So, hey, credit where credit is due. Scadabo destroyed Mississippi State. Maybe he's going to destroy the Big 12. We'll see how it works out. And then, of course, Colorado. You want to talk about snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, man. Let me tell you about what Colorado went through here to end this game off. And I'll preface it by saying they won the game 38-31. It was a win over Baylor, and the Colorado student section stormed the field. Now, if you just look at the treetops perspective, you look at those facts, you'd say that's a sad, sad field storming right there. But let me lay out what Colorado had to do to win this football game. So, at the very end of regulation, they're down 7. Shedeur Sanders is driving them down the field, and they're trying to just get a miracle at the end of this thing. And they basically get it on a play right before the ultimate, final sequence in this regulation. They ultimately get it. Shedeur Sanders throws a perfect pass in a one-on-one opportunity. The receiver goes up. All he has to do is catch it, turn around, and fall into the end zone. And Colorado gets a miracle. It's a storybook ending in regulation. We go to overtime. That receiver drops the pass, hits him right on the hands. He drops the pass, and now we're looking at another 50-yard play to try and get a miracle. And this is a legit Hail Mary that they have to complete. What does Shedeur Sanders do? Well, he's a first-round talent physically, so he throws that sucker in there. He gets the Hail Mary. They get a touchdown at the end of regulation in order to force overtime. So they go to overtime versus Baylor. And what happens? Shedeur Sanders goes out there, throws the touchdown, gets him ahead in overtime. Fans are going wild. Baylor gets right down there to the goal line. They are looking like they are about to force double overtime, and the best player in college football, Travis Hunter. I ain't got no worries about Travis Hunter, man. He's a cornerback. He can be as brash and kind of a problem sometimes in the media as he wants, because he's a cornerback, either a cornerback or a wide receiver. Either way, I want those guys to be flashing. I want those guys to play on the edge. I got no questions about him. Best player in college football. He should be a top 5 pick. On the defensive end, after going 7 receptions for 130 yards on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive end, at the goal line, puts his helmet directly on the football for the Baylor running back, forces the fumble. That fumble has momentum, spills out the back of the end zone. It's a touchback. Colorado wins the game. Fans storm the field, man. And with that sequence in mind, you can understand why those fans stormed the field. If I was a student at Colorado, I probably would have stormed the field there. I don't think it really matters who the opponent is. When you win like that and you're Colorado, baby, storm the goddamn field. You only get a couple opportunities to do this when you're in college. I didn't get the opportunity to do it once when I was in college. When you get the opportunity, you take that sucker and you run with it. And I have no problems with Colorado's fans storming the field. I don't care if it was Baylor they beat. The way that they beat Baylor, that deserves a field storming. You got 2 types of field stormings. One, against, big time upset. You're not expected to win, and it's a big time win for the program. Obviously, that's the most common scenario. You storm the field at that point. Conversely, if you win a game that 99 times out of 100, you do not win if you replay that scenario, you storm the field, baby. So I have no quarrels about the Colorado students in this one, and I'm not even gonna talk about the Deion Sanders comments about you feel very comfortable taking shots at players. Whatever, man. I've made my opinions known about Deion Sanders. I've made my opinions known about Shedeur Sanders and the weights that his intangibles are going to hold at the next level. That'll bear out in due time. I don't need to belabor that point. Hey, credit to Colorado for a great win. I have to give credit where it's due. And hey, if you're a student in that situation, you're storming the field. No question about it in my mind. If you're at that environment, if you're a student there, you are storming the field. And if you're saying otherwise, you're lying. You're absolutely lying to yourself. Whether you know it or not, you are lying. Okay, so that's the Big 12. We'll keep it moving from there. Big 10. Also, that Colorado and the Colorado and who's their face game, the Baylor game, that should be pretty indicative of what we're going to see in the Big 12. It's going to be a dandy of a season in the Big 12, and I'm giddy with excitement. Just giddy with excitement. All right, so Indiana continues their impressive start to the season. What is this guy's first name? Curtis Rourke, MAC legend, playing out of his mind with Indiana so far. He went 12.9 yards per attempt in this game. Threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown, had 8 yards per carry on the ground as well. He was playing very, very well. They're playing Charlotte, obviously, but they get the win 52-14, and they're undefeated going into Big Ten play. Kurt Signetti has got the boys playing. Coach Sig has got, Indiana playing the best football that they've played over there in years, and we'll see if that continues going forward. Outside of that, though, Maryland beat Villanova. Cool. Fun fact, I suppose. Washington beat Northwestern 24-5. Weird score. I guess Northwestern got a safety in there in the second quarter, somewhere along the lines. Steve Belichick stays making funny faces on the sidelines. He just looked like, I can't remember what the call was about, but he looked like a toddler who was about to have a temper tantrum, but is starting to learn some degree of discipline. But really wants to have that temper tantrum. Is probably going to have it in 5 minutes after the camera pans away. That's kind of the face that Steve Belichick was given in that one. Love that. They're 3-1 right now. I don't think they're all that good, but they're 3-1 right now. Iowa, they beat Minnesota 31-14. Does Iowa have a legitimately okay average offense this year? I think they absolutely do, and it's because they have a legitimate Doak Walker Award candidate in Caleb Johnson. He is a fantastic running back. Had another 200-yard performance in this one, 3 touchdowns. He is the straw that stirs that drink for the Iowa offense. And I think if you have a guy like Caleb Johnson, I think Kirk Ferentz would love nothing more than to ride that guy straight into the ground for a 2,000-yard season. And I think Caleb Johnson's well on his way to that with the way that he's going to be used in this offense this year. Iowa, sneaky Big Ten contender. I think they're going to be, doing the same thing they usually do in this situation, which is win a bunch of games in the regular season, then face Ohio State and get run off the field. But 10 wins, very much in the cards for this Iowa team once again this year. They've still got a really good defense. The offense is much improved. They're a better team than they were last year, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what this Iowa team does. Minnesota, they're just not all that good. Yeah, we'll keep it moving from there. They lost to North Carolina. That's all you need to know about Minnesota. And then Oregon State beat Purdue 38-21. Never count the Beavers out, man. Never count them out. 3-1. The Pac-2 is thriving right now. Absolutely thriving. They're the Pac-6 right now. Hell, they could be back to the Pac-10 before we even know it. We'll just have to wait and see on that front. But that's it for the Big Ten. Let's take a look at the SEC. Just bracing myself for what's about to happen here. And, of course, it's what I have to talk about right off the bat because it's what happened in chronological order. We're just going to hit this quickly. Florida beat Mississippi State 45-28, and it looks like Mississippi State lost their starting quarterback, Blake Shapen, for the year with a shoulder injury. So, fun stuff. Michael Van Buren time. Yeah, Michael Van Buren time going forward at Mississippi State at starting quarterback, starting a true freshman. That's fun. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's we didn't learn anything about Florida. I'll tell you that right now. Good for Graham Mertz. 19 of 21, 3 touchdowns. I should tell you everything you need to know about the Mississippi State defense, though, man. I'm just going to put it bluntly. My team, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, the team that I love more than any team in the college football landscape. I do love the Vikings more. I'm sorry, Boo. You're still the side bitch compared to the Vikings. Just the way it is at this point. But a team that I, poured blood, sweat, and tears into. I painted my chest up for innumerable games in my college career there. Right in the front row for good times, bad times, a lot of bad times, some really good times. They're the team that I love more than any team in college football, and I just got to be honest, they fucking stink. They're the worst team in the SEC. by probably a pretty good margin. Who's the second worst in the SEC right now? Is it Florida? Because Florida just won by 3 scores against my Mississippi State Bulldogs. I mean, where do you want to start, man? I mean, quarterback-wise, Blake Shapen wasn't doing great before he went out, but the offensive line in front of him is bad. The receivers I think there's good bones to the receiving core. I think Kevin Coleman is a really solid weapon out there. Everyone else is a freshman or a sophomore. They're very, very young. I think they have good potential. I think they're recruiting very well in that position, but they're very young on the outside, and they just don't have enough time to run the offense that Jeff Lebby wants to run. Because the offensive line is a disaster, up until this game against Florida, the running game really wasn't an option. And it's a surprise the running game was as good as it was in this game against Florida, all things considered. That was their lone bright spot for Mississippi State. Hey, maybe it's something we can build off of, but it's not been the pattern so far. And we've been one-dimensional. A lot of passes in this offense so far because the running game has been bad, and that's allowed defenses to key in on that, and we're just not good enough on the outside for defense to just be able to tee off on that aspect. There needs to be more variety, and we just don't have the personnel to do it offensively. And that's the side of the ball that was supposed to be good. I mean, defensively, they are just as bad as I thought they would be. The defensive line is bad. With the exception of Isaac Smith, the linebacking core is bad. The secondary is a disaster. A lot of young players back there as well. And we're going to need a lot more bodies there. That's a 3-year project, man. You're just hoping they become serviceable by year 3 because they're not going to be good next year with the personnel that we have. And we're just hoping that you get some good portal additions and some good developmental prospects through high school recruiting. And that's the only way we're going to replenish that thing. That's a long-term project over there on that side of the ball. It's bad. It's all really, really bad for Mississippi State right now. And prepare for pain, man, because I think UMass is about the only win we got left in the schedule. I think we're a 2-10 football team because, oh boy, we're about to get lit on fire, folks. The only schedule that is harder than Mississippi State's throughout the back portion of the season is the team that we just played, the Florida Gators. Let me read off this schedule for you going forward for Mississippi State. The next 2 games that we have are next weekend we are at Texas. We might lose by 70 in that game. Then bye week to rest up and relax. Then get ready for Georgia to destroy us. They're going to win by 50. We're at Georgia. We're on the road in both of those games. The combined loss margin is going to be 100 plus. You heard it here first. It's going to be 100 plus margin in those games. I'm going to stop watching them by halftime because I don't want to put myself through that sort of pain. And then we play Texas A&M at home. Maybe if we get a miracle, we can stay competitive in that one. I think Texas A&M wins. We host Arkansas. As much as it pains me to say, Arkansas is not nearly as ass as Mississippi State. Arkansas is going to get the win in that one. UMass, I'm giving us the win in a shootout. I don't even think we win that game by a large margin. I just think we win that game and we take our second win. Then, to end off the season, we're at Tennessee, we host Missouri, and then we are at Ole Miss. 2-10. 2-10. The only win left on the schedule is Massachusetts right now. We are about as down bad as a program can be down bad right now. And it makes me even more angry that Zach Arnett squandered what we had last year because this was always on the horizon. This was the inevitability. The clock started ticking when Mike Leach unfortunately passed away and put us in a tough spot for hiring a coach. This was always on the horizon for us when Mike Leach passed away. We had an incredibly experienced roster in that last year under Zach Arnett, and that was the year that we had to make a splash, man. If we had solid coaching, who knows what happens? Maybe we go 8-4 or something like that. Maybe we're just having another solid year, another bowl appearance. If we have competent offensive coordination and defensive coordination, which we had neither last year. The fact of the matter was, after those guys graduated, the roster was going to be bereft of talent, and that's precisely what happened. And you factor that in with Zach Arnett being fired after year 1, a bunch of players enter the transfer portal, and the attrition is even more, precipitous than it was in previously expected levels. This team is so bad. This team is so bad. I don't think they're going to be all that good next year. You're just hoping that by year 3, you're putting out a really good offense and a serviceable defense. And we're just going to have to go from there. I'm at a loss for words. This final 8-game stretch is going to suck more than just about anything I have witnessed in my sports watching career. And this is where we earn our stripes, folks. This is where we earn our stripes. Let's just keep it moving. I'm real depressed after that whole segment we just did. Okay, what else we got going on here? Kentucky beat Ohio. Who cares? Arkansas beat Auburn. Auburn stinks. Arkansas stinks less than Auburn. I'm not sure how good they actually are, but they're 3-1, so they're well on their way to a bowl appearance and saving Sam Pittman's job. And South Carolina's 3-1 after beating Akron 50-7. I'm depressed, man. Let's just move on to next week. Whatever, man. I put myself in a bad mood thinking about the future of Mississippi State. Let's take a look at the top 25 matchups, and we'll go from there. So Miami is hosting Virginia Tech. Miami minus 19. I think that's an appropriate line. I think they probably cover that, but I probably won't bet it. Ole Miss is hosting Kentucky in their first, I guess you could call this their first real test. I don't think Kentucky's all that good either. But Ole Miss favored by 17.5. I'll probably stay away from that one. We got to see what Ole Miss is in this game. They're facing the best defense they've faced so far this year. So we'll see how they respond and react accordingly. Michigan is a -9 favorite against Minnesota. I'm staying away from that game too because I just don't think Michigan is all that good. I think they're good enough to win this game. Who's to say it's by 9 though? Kansas State is hosting Oklahoma State. Should have gotten on this one early. This was in favor of Kansas State by 5.5 on Sunday. That's already moved to -6 on ESPN. I think it's probably moved to 6.5 elsewhere right now. I just don't feel comfortable betting Kansas State to win by a touchdown in this game. But I think they win this game against Oklahoma State. BYU is going on the road to Baylor. Baylor is favored by 3. Now that feels like a rat line right there. That's just the sports books are dangling cheese right out in front of us right now. And they're saying, take that cheese, man. Bet on BYU. And I bet you, I don't even got to look at where the public money is going. I bet you like 70% of the public money is going to be on BYU in this one. I don't know, man. That's a rat line. That's an absolute rat line. Is the cheese good enough for me to bite down on it, though? We'll see. I'm going to have to reevaluate. I'm going to have to evaluate that one. Man, I think I'm staying away, though. That's a rat line if I've ever seen a rat line right there. That's danger. That is flashing warning signs for that line. Just doesn't make any sense, and for that reason, I don't trust it. Wisconsin is on the road at USC. USC is favored by 14.5. I think I'd probably lean USC. I just don't think Wisconsin's all that good. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why Wisconsin hasn't been able to bring in the players to play the type of style that they want, but they still don't have the players to play the type of style that they want. It's just perplexing to me, but Wisconsin's still not that good, and I think USC is good enough to beat them and cover in this game. Notre Dame is facing their next big test to get them back in playoff contention. They're hosting Louisville. They're favored by 6.5. And honestly, I'm going to see where that line goes. I'm thinking Louisville in this one. I'm thinking the road dog in this game. I just feel like, honestly, at 48.5, I honestly might lean the under as well. I don't think either of these teams are going to score a whole lot of points. And I think both of them want to run the football. So I think that 48.5 is a live under. That's a live under. So we'll circle back around to that. We'll circle back around to it. Oklahoma's going to Auburn. Oklahoma's favored by 2. I don't know, man. I'm staying the hell away from that one because that's a doo-doo stink fest. Texas A&M is hosting Arkansas. Sneaky game. Texas A&M is favored by 3.5. And I'd probably lean Texas, but I don't know if I got money on that one. Texas is hosting Mississippi State. Texas is favored by 38.5. Look, I'm not betting on it. I'm going down with the ship. But if you're a betting person, that 38.5 is juicy. That is juicy. They're going to win anywhere from 60 to 70 to probably 7. That 38.5, I'm not betting it out of principle, but if I weren't, I'll just put it this way. If I weren't a Mississippi State fan, I would be hammering that 38.5 for Texas. I don't care if it's 38.5 points. They're going to cover it. They might hit the over by themselves. The over-under is 61.5. I think there's a real chance they hit that by themselves. It's going to be painful. It's going to be painful, and I already know it. I'm just going to mentally prepare myself. Ohio State's on the road at Michigan State. They're favored by 24.5. No real lean that game. I guess I'll pick Ohio State because they're the better team, but no real lean. It's a big spread. Clemson is hosting Stanford. Clemson's favored by 21.5. I think it's an appropriate line. I don't have a real lean on that, and that half point scares me. So I'm going to stay away from it, but I lean Clemson, obviously. They're buzzsawing teams right now. Iowa State is on the road at Houston, minus 13.5. I think I might take that. I think I might roll with that. I'll have to get back to you on the exact line that I bet it, but I do think I'm going to take that Iowa State minus 13.5. Houston's just awful. Just an awful, awful football team. Biggest game of the week, we got Georgia-Bama. Every show is going to be there. It's going to be a spectacle. Only one that's not going to be there is big noon kickoff because this is not a noon game. So, Alabama hosting Georgia. Big-time litmus test for both teams. Georgia favored by 1.5. I have no great feel on this game. I think we're going to find out a whole lot about both of these teams. And I think we're going to find out that both of them are contenders. I'm expecting a great game in this one. I don't know what the score is going to be, but I know it's going to be close. I would be shocked if this turned into a blowout. I guess I would lean Georgia just because they have the national title pedigree that this coaching staff in Alabama does not. But Alabama has every opportunity to win this game, and they have the home field advantage to go out there and see what happens. So this is going to be a great game, man. I hope it lives up to the billing, because if it does, we're going to have a classic on our hands here in this week 4. I guess it'd be week 5, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd be a week 5. I think both these teams have had a bye so far. So moving on, we got Illinois on the road at Penn State. Penn State is favored by 18.5. I'm leaning Illinois, folks. I'm tempted to do it. Even if they just lose by 10, that's a cover for us, man. I'm going to have to look into that more. I am feeling the road dog in that one. I love Illinois. I think this team has what it takes to take some big-time teams to the wire. I think they have a real chance of winning this game. It's going to be a hard atmosphere in Happy Valley. Real uphill battle. I think it's a 10% chance maybe, but that 10% chance is better than a whole lot of other teams have. And I don't know. I like Illinois to be frisky in this game. Sue me. Don't actually. Alabama, or South Alabama rather, is on the road at LSU. LSU's favored by 21. Honestly, lean South Alabama on that spread, but obviously I got LSU winning that one. Boise State is hosting Washington State. Hey, Boise State, welcome to the top 25. Round of applause for the boys over there in Boise, Idaho. They have the best running back in the country for my money in Ashton Jeanty. 9 touchdowns through 3 games. You heard that correctly. 9 touchdowns through 3 games. He is right up there with Caleb Johnson as your Doak Walker front runners right now. And, hey, they're facing a big-time test at home against a 4-0 Washington State team. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. Minus 7.5 right now. The half point scares me, so I'm staying away. But, hey, 64.5 over-under. Vegas is expecting points, and you love to see it. You absolutely love to see it. Utah is hosting Arizona. Utah is favored by 12.5. I would lean Utah if Cam Rising plays, which that is the assumption that the spread is indicating there. Arizona, they're just not the team that they were last year, man. They still got Noah Fafita. They still got Ted McMillan. What else do they have, though, man? And Ted McMillan hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire since that 300-yard game to start the season. So what do they really have over there that wows you? Not a great defense, not a great offense. They're still good enough. They still got a good QB. They still got a top-flight wide receiver. They're still good enough to be frisky. I'm just not sure that they're on Utah's level, quite frankly. So, obviously, leaning Utah on that one. And then rounding things off, we have got I just thought it was saw it as a former Pac-12 matchup and got excited for After Dark action. This is a kickoffs at 11 p.m. It's Oregon at UCLA, though. Oregon's favored by 24, and I honestly lean Oregon. Might lean hard enough to bet them in this game. I don't necessarily love betting on a road favorite that's as large of a road favorite as they are, but UCLA is just poo-poo stinky terrible, man. They are so bad. So I'd lean Oregon in that matchup. Okay, let's go through, see if there's any matchups we're missing here. NC State's hosting Northern Illinois, and Northern Illinois is the 7-point dog in that game. I would honestly lean Northern Illinois. It's on the CW. Disgusting network for it to be on. Fitting given the matchup, but I'd lean Northern Illinois in that one. What else we got here? I guess, North Carolina at Duke. Story basketball rivalry. Pretty forgettable as a football rivalry, though, so we'll keep it moving. Clemson-Stanford. Not sure how that one slipped through the cracks. Clemson is, in fact, ranked. No, it didn't slip through the cracks. I already talked about it. I'm just losing my mind. Sorry about that. SMU's favored by 5.5 versus Florida State. I don't know. I'm staying away from that one. I mean, maybe I just don't know how good SMU is. I know Florida State stinks, but I'm just not sure how good SMU is in that one. Big 12, TCU at Kansas. That's just a sad matchup. But hey, I guess Kansas is -2. Guess I'd lean Kansas. I mean, last I saw of TCU, they were getting SMU hanging 66 on them, so not fantastic. UCF is favored by 14.5 against Colorado, and I think that's appropriate. That's an appropriate line. No one's talking about this UCF team right now as a Big 12 contender. All they've got are just, ho-hum. They've got, it's not Jordan Jefferson. I always forget the guy's name. What's his name? What's his name? What's his KJ Jefferson. I apologize to that man. Solid QB in KJ Jefferson, star running back in Rufus Harvey out there. Good running backs, good receivers out there. Really solid offense at UCF. Watch out for this UCF team, man. I think they're a real Big 12 dark horse contender. I love their makeup with KJ Jefferson at quarterback. Fun team too, man. It's going to be points for both teams. Honestly, at that 63.5, the over/under. I might be hitting the over there. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I might be attacking the board once again. It might be attack the board season going forward. And that might be one of them I attack at that 63.5, the over-under. I just think there's going to be points in this game. I don't think Colorado can stop UCF, and I really don't think UCF can stop Colorado's offense either. So I'm expecting points in this game. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Outside of that, Cincinnati at Texas Tech. Texas Tech favored by 3. I would honestly take Texas Tech in that matchup, and I think Texas Tech should be favored by more. That might be one that I attack as well. This might be another attack the board weekend. That was what last weekend was. It might be that way again, folks. We might be heading for another attack the board weekend. Okay, but we move on to the Big Ten. Rutgers is hosting Washington. Rutgers favored by 2.5. That seems like a gritty Rutgers win written all over it. I lean Rutgers. I don't think I'll bet it because I think this is going to be a massive card for your boy this weekend. There's a lot of games I like just going through this lineup right now. Maryland is at Indiana. Indiana's favored by 7, and I would honestly lean Indiana. I don't think I'm going to bet that. I think we're going to find out a lot about Indiana in this game, but Sig's got the boys playing, man. Sig has got the boys playing. Nebraska is at Purdue. Nebraska is favored by 10, and I'm not going to take it because it's a road favorite, and there's so many other good games to bet, but I would lean Nebraska in that game for sure. What else are we missing? Nothing in the Big Ten. That's it. I'm sorry. I just recklessly started itching the interior of my nose, and it looked like I was picking my nose. That's obviously what we're going with there. Sorry. SEC play. Is there any we haven't talked about? Nope. Only ranked matchups in the SEC, which should speak to just how loaded the SEC is. That they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games this week, and every single one of them features a ranked team, and one of them features multiple ranked teams. So the SEC, man, that's not even all the ranked teams that they have. They are just so loaded from top to bottom. With that said, though, I think that's all for this episode. What are we doing on time-wise? 128, a little bit long, but you know what? We'll live with that. With that said, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. Thank you so much. This has been the Week 3 edition. Week 4 is coming next week. Obviously, this is the Week 4 edition. Week 5 is coming next week. That's how numbers work. That's how the weeks work in college football. So, if you enjoyed, subscribe wherever you listen to this on any platform. Share with a friend. Rates, all that sort of good stuff. Follow me on socials at CalebVUA. If you want to contact the show, either shoot me a DM or send me an email. Unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com on the email. That and the Twitter are both linked down in the description. We do this thing twice a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, with exceptions here and there for scheduling conflicts. But outside of that, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. And as always, I've got no clue what I'm talking about. That being said, one thing I learned this week, and again, fresh off the presses, I just learned this one yesterday. On August 20th, 1672, following a three-pronged invasion by England from the sea, France from the south, Germany from the north, I think. Don't quote me on that. The Bavarian states, if you will. Three-pronged attack. The Dutch Grand Pensionary, aka pretty much the Prime Minister for the Netherlands, Johan de Witt, or de Witt, rather, as you pronounce it, and his brother were killed by a mob in The Hague, Netherlands. The mob, that was not supposed to say multi-layer. It does say multi-layer, but the mob mutilated their bodies and ate some of de Witt's body parts, including his liver and one of his eyes. So, political times may be tough in your country. Are they so tough that a mob is murdering your prime minister and eating his organs? Could be worse. Could be a whole lot worse. And with that said, I will see y'all on Thursday. Enjoy that visual on the way out. See ya.